Hi there, welcome. Welcome to Homekeepers. How are you today, my friend? Thanks for dropping by. The program's called Homekeepers. And I've said many times we deal with anything and everything that affects the home. You know what that is? Anything and everything. So we will never ever run out of subject matter, that's for sure. So I'm glad you joined us, and if you saw the last program yesterday, my guest was Trish Jenkins, an author, a speaker, and we talked about her time, 8 months in prison because of a business situation and how God used her there. And we talked about her book, Treasures in the Darkness. Going to talk about a couple other books today, Dangerous Wealth and Weapons of Cash Destruction. And this is to protect you, protect your fortune from fraud. And also, there is a romantic fraud that I believe is visited upon women more than men. So we're going to talk about those things because we want you to very much know what's going on. The Bible says we're not ignorant to Satan's ways. You know what? He doesn't fool me very often. I've known the Lord too long. I can recognize him. And I want you to be able to do that too. So good. When I talk to Trish, we're going to talk about these books and recap a little bit if you didn't hear her story on the last program. I do hope you saw the program yesterday with Trish Jenkins. We talked about her experience in going to prison because of a business situation. And that book is called Treasures in Darkness, right?
Treasures of Darkness, The Prison Journey.
And that's from the Isaiah?
Isaiah 45. I will give you treasures of darkness and hidden riches in secret places, that you would know that I, the Lord, am the God of Israel, who calls you by name.
Well, that really fit your experience, I think. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So glad to have you because we've got other things to talk about. Weapons of Cash Destruction and Dangerous Wealth. She is a businesswoman, but getting out of prison changed your whole value system, didn't it?
It really did. And, you know, as I said yesterday, I still believe in the prosperity of the Lord, but the Lord wants us to be smart about it. You know, gentle as doves and wise as serpents when it comes to handling our money. And quite often Christians can be very naive when it comes to where they place their money because they've got great intentions.
Yeah. And they think anything that looks like a good deal, surely God is in it. So he expects you to use your brain.
He does.
As well as.
And your spirit.
And, but I have no doubt that the Lord used the situation to put you right where he wanted you, and I think that there were lives changed forever and ever because you were there, just surrounded by broken people. But let's go back to before your life fell apart as you knew it. And you and your husband were set. You were not even 40 years old, and you.
That's right.
We reached really didn't need to work anymore.
We reached our goal.
And you lost everything, right?
We lost everything, yes.
You had a lot of real estate, you lost that?
We did. We had half a dozen properties, which might not be much by American standards, but in Australia that's fairly significant. And it was how we were structured. You know, it was two things. It was not only did we went into a voluntary liquidation situation because the experts said we can handle this better than you can. So they took over our affairs and basically sold everything up and paid themselves their fees with that. And yeah, which is
why
great.
She's writing these kind of books.
And then the rest of what we had went towards paying lawyers. So first of all, I had corporate lawyers, and then when I was served with papers charging me, we switched to criminal lawyers, and you will pay everything you have.
Now, did some of the money go to pay people back?
Well,
or was it mostly legal?
Well, it wasn't necessary because it wasn't my debt. You know, that I didn't owe people money technically because it had gone through to the fellow who had stolen it all. So I wasn't required to pay anybody back. Well, you know, what I had done wrong though was there was money come in, and when I just caved and couldn't take it anymore, I paid everybody with it, and I shouldn't have. I should have continued to pay that money to the fellow who was stealing it, even though I didn't know that he was. That's what I did that was wrong. And when I offered to pay that money back, I wasn't allowed to because all my assets had been frozen and they would have lost that money anyway. And then when the judge said, well, can you pay the money back? I said, well, I can't now because I couldn't then and when I did have the money. So it was just messy. And our structures weren't set up properly. But I'll tell you something, even Christians, you know, you can set yourself up with all sorts of companies and trusts and protect yourself that way. However, nothing will protect you from willingly handing over your money to somebody.
Oh, that's so good. Say it again.
You can protect yourself to the back teeth with structures, with companies and trusts and bucket companies and all sorts of clever things. And you can do it as much as in proportion to your fear of loss. But nothing will protect you from yourself when you want to give your money to somebody.
Or maybe from being stupid. So that's.
We are our
I
own
like
worst
that
risk.
your experiences have helped you write books.
They have.
To help people. And this also includes personal relationships that
Yes.
Women can be so easily set up by
They
some
really
fraudulent guy.
Yes. Now, during the time leading up to going to court, I actually got a job with a corporate investigator who taught me a lot about fraud warning signals. And he said to me, Trish, this book that you're writing, can you write it for women? Because by the time they call me, they can't afford me. And often it's wrapped up in romance. And he said, single women over 40 are the second biggest target for fraud in the world.
Single woman over 40.
Yes. Now, the biggest target is retirees and baby boomers because they're after their 401k or retirement money. But the single women over 40, because very often they've raised their family, they've had their divorce, kids are off their hands, they feel, you know, that they're getting themselves back on their feet, they might start a little business, start to take care of themselves, they start to get a bit of self-esteem, get a bit of money behind them, they start to look good, and then they realise they're lonely. And that's when somebody will zero in on them.
That's Satan's opportunity.
It is, it is. He finds us at our area of vulnerability. And when I talk to people about fraud, they're, you know, we can have all the checklists we like, but we have to know what makes us vulnerable, what our hot buttons are. For a man, it might be lust, or well, that can be for a woman as well. It could be lust, it could be pride, it could be, you know, wanting to impress people. For women, it might be that there's a hole in their heart and they've got to buy so many shoes to fill it, but shoes will not fill the hole in your heart that's meant for Jesus.
Exactly. Maybe once a week, usually not even that often. I watch Judge Judy if I get home early enough. And it's highly entertaining.
Yes.
Do they get it in Australia?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I would say 90% of the cases are women who have made horrendous choices, either money. And so let me say this. Women, don't loan your money to men. Just don't do it. They'll come to court and say you gave it to them. And if you allow a guy to move in with you, or you move in with a guy, you're setting yourself up with so much heartache.
Yes.
And if a guy respects you and has your best interest, he's not going to do any of those things.
Look, I don't want to sound harsh because I realise people do fall on tough times. But if a man needs your money and he's been a grown-up for a long time, that's a warning signal in itself that he's not a good catch. Seriously, you're not his mother. You're not his mother. You're not his rescuer. It is not your job to finance him. You know, and shacking up and, you know, because what you're doing is you're trying to make the relationship into something that you want it to be.
But it never
and
will
it's
be.
not, because you're projecting onto them qualities. Oh, you know, I want to do this business and I just need to be back a bit.
Yeah.
If the bank won't give them, now I know it's tough times, the bank aren't giving anybody any money, but generally in normal times, if the bank is not going to lend, even children, you know, if they're not going to lend your grown-up children money for a house, there's a reason. It means it's a risk.
I had a guest here once, he addressed the ladies in the audience, and he said, just remember that before God gave Adam a wife, he gave him a job.
Yes.
And if the guy doesn't have a job, just back out or put the whole thing on hold.
Yep.
To get it in order.
Exactly. But have, I know I spoke about structures before, but have guidelines in place that you have a proper agreement. You say, because I love you, I want to protect our relationship. That's why we need to have proper structures in place that protect us both should something go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're going to lose your home, are you prepared to do that? And when you go into business together, if you're married, you go into business together, then you've got to be prepared to take the risk.
But so many, you know, their emotions get in the way.
Yes.
I want to put your website up. We'll leave it up. Please notice at the end of that .com is a .au. That stands for Australia. And in case you hadn't noticed, her accent is not an American. Now, you said that success is a double-edged sword that
Yes.
attracts opportunities and opportunists.
Yes.
And of course, men make mistakes too.
Yes, they do.
But what can you say to our sisters out there to help them discern an opportunity rather than an opportunist?
Well, you know, you do the normal due diligence, which is checking license numbers, you know, checking backgrounds. If you need to, contact a private investigator to get their background. In fact, you should do that before your romance turns romantic.
Oh, you should do that for a romance,
Absolutely.
not just business.
You need to know.
Ooh, she's tough.
You need to know, has the person, now, I mean, I'm the last person to judge someone who's been in prison.
That's right.
However, sometimes...
However, you might be the best.
Well, you know, people have history, and yes, you know, it's under the blood and all, but people carry habits and history with them. Now, you could go into business with someone, and it might not be romantic, but if their marriage is in trouble, don't think that that is separate to business. This business of business and personal are separate. Rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
That's just rubbish. You're on a hide into nowhere there. That's just naive. You need to know everything you can about that person, and you know, just be really careful.
Yeah, if it appears that it might go somewhere, either in
Exactly.
business or romance.
Before your emotions get the better of you. You know that there's a period of time in a potential romance when you're seeing someone and you're starting to, and you're looking for, and everything they do is great, and there's a few things that aren't great. While you have still got your logic, and don't, now, I mean, I know we have Christian morals, but some Christians sort of have more flexibility about their standards than others, let's put it that way. You know, the minute you get intimate, you've lost your objectivity.
You've lost the battle.
You've lost your objectivity. That is there to protect you. It's about preparation. So you've got to go in with your eyes open and be prepared. And most of all, know where you're vulnerable. If you grew up without a daddy, is that what you're looking for and you're projecting onto that person? You have got to know where you're vulnerable and have people around you that you trust who are objective to speak into your life, and be prepared to walk away. If you can't walk away, that's the biggest warning signal.
Something wrong. I think there's so many Christians that look at the Bible as a spiritual book. That's just for your soul, and certainly that's number one, is to know Jesus and to give him your life and to follow him. But the Bible's it tells you how to be healthy, it tells you how to handle your money,
Yes.
it tells you how to have a relationship, it tells you how
Yes.
to be a parent.
Yep.
I mean, it's the book of life, total life. Now, you write that the Bible has excellent advice and cautions when it comes to business.
Yes.
So that'd be a good place to look, right?
Well, it is. You know, the Bible talks about having, you know, like with investments, it says divide your portions to 7 and 8, because you do not know, in Ecclesiastes, because you don't know which ones are going to come back in. So don't just put all your eggs in one basket. You should have, you know, apart from your giving, you should have maybe a 10% investment account, which is separate to your 10% savings account. You should pay yourself first after you've given, after you've given to God, but you pay yourself, so you've got that set aside. You don't touch that. My husband and I went through everything, we lost it. Not once did we go into debt. Now, we had investment debt from the houses, but they were paying for themselves, and we were in profit from that, you know, because they were growing, and also, so when they were sold up, the banks got their money. But we did not go into personal debt at all. We downsized, And quite often we get blessed, we think, oh, I'm going to get a bigger house. Why? Why do you, I love prosperity, I think increase is great, but really, what is your motive? Why do you need to? Why not downsize and have extra cash to spend on your kid? You don't have to work overtime so much because you've got the time to spend with your children, raising them, teaching them how to do money better.
I was listening to Dave Ramsey the other day, and he said, you know, people talk about good debt. He says, there's not such thing as good debt. The Bible teaches, you know, against debt. You have to, you know, encourage sometimes, but it's better not to. What kind of, say there's a widow, and let me say, all you married women, you need to know exactly what's going on in your finances. You need to know everything, period.
Yes.
And anyway, this lady didn't know, and so her husband died. She had insurance stuff. And the estate was reasonable. Somebody sells her Iraqi money.
Oh dear.
I mean,
oh dear.
What could be dumber? I mean, that place can blow up tomorrow. And so how can somebody who's really vulnerable, maybe they did just lose their mate, maybe they got the estate together and they are a sitting duck.
They are. Look, when you're in a position of vulnerability like that, especially with grief, you're not thinking clearly and you are looking for somebody to save you. It's not that they're dumb, it's just that they're vulnerable.
Right.
They're looking for someone to save them, and they're looking for the qualities of their husband in someone else to rescue them, and they will put their trust in that person. When you have a major crisis, you should do nothing, no major decisions for 6 months to 2 years. You know, the grieving process is normally about 2 years, and then after that it's unhealthy. Not that I'm an expert in that area, but generally that's what I've heard. But you must do nothing. Just put it in the bank, earning pitiful interest,
whatever,
fine. Yeah. Don't do anything. And get educated and learn and make some smart decisions. Get some good advice. Understand what's in it for that person as well. They might be entitled to commissions. They might be getting fees. You need to know what's in it for them. And then if you're okay with that, that's fine. But know the risks. You know, I mean, Iraqi dollars, really? There's a war going on. You know,
that's where you've got to be careful and ask questions. Yep.
Keep it boring. You know, keep it safe and boring while you're asking questions. You know, you don't get exotic and especially people are especially vulnerable at the moment after the GFC, post GFC. People are global financial crisis. That you guys and we've the only reason we're not suffering financially in Australia is because we've got coal, and the Chinese love us for it. So it's not because our treasurer is clever. I can promise you that. But people are vulnerable. If they've lost money, they will be in a hurry to make it back. And
so
that's
they might
what makes
fall for
them
anything.
Especially vulnerable. So if you're facing retirement and you don't have enough money, you're going to want to try and do it in a hurry, and that's what makes you vulnerable.
I know we're bouncing back and forth with the money and the heart, because I've seen women hurt so desperately because manipulator, I mean, they're usually pretty intelligent. They can talk a good talk, and they probably don't have 2 pennies to rub together, but they look good. And you use the scripture that I've used so much. I just wish I could somehow pound it into people's soul, and that is, guard your heart.
Guard your heart. Guard your heart.
Guard it. Because out of that flow all the issues of life.
Well, they do. And often we don't, because we don't think highly enough of ourselves. You know, with women, we're often, you know, we carry guilt and shame and our low self-esteem, and we think, who's going to love me? But when your heart is filled, when your emotional tank is filled with your relationship with Christ and having healthy, be knitted in with families, be knitted into the church, have good, healthy social relationships, you'll be less vulnerable. Now, these wolves in sheep's clothing, they will come into the church.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever sort of social. You don't have to be a Christian.
They join the church.
That's how they do. They do. And when you have a good relationship with Christ, your spirit man is the only thing that will tell you there's something wrong with Bob. You know, he's come in and he will act, they talk like you talk, they give the same answers that you would expect. But if you're truly in the Word, now it is true that people who are really close to God can get fooled, that's true. But usually there's something a little bit off.
The chances are much less.
They are.
Yeah.
Now you and I both speak English, but some things are different. I thought I knew everything about America because I watch TV and I see movies. But then I get here and I thought I'd broken the toilet because the water kept coming up and ours stays in the bottom. You know, there's little differences that you will notice and you'll explain them away.
Yep.
Oh, that's just because he's from another place. Oh, that's just because of this. Oh, that.
Yeah. And they excuse them. You know what? We are just about out of time again. I want to remind you again of the website because you can get all of her books there. And I think they're so very valuable. The one, Treasures in Darkness and Weapons of Cash Destruction, Dangerous Wealth, they're all on the website. And they have messages that women and men alike need to know, need to learn.
Yeah.
A lot of good tips for business so that you don't get in the kind of problem that she did at that time. And I am sorry. I wish I could talk to this lady for another hour, but we can't. So join me next time. Remember, there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you would like a video copy of today's Homekeepers program for just $19.95, call 1-800-229-0059 for credit card orders, or send a gift of at least $19.95 to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. Be sure to note the program number which appears on your screen.